Don't forget, I'll ask you for a first subject, Aubrey. Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 185. Let me go and do my little bit of boom attack, guys. Wait for it. Oh, come on, man. Should do it. Boom attack for the evening. I have to do on every single stream. Just to let the audience know, we should have the Franklin on as a special guest later on, but because it is only just gone 6 a.m. in Australia, and the Franklin doesn't live that far away from me in the same state, he can't join us until probably about 7:30, roughly. So he'll be joining us then, hopefully. I've already sent him the link. Good evening to my guests this evening, Mitch and Aubrey. How are you going this evening, people?
Same old, same old.
Good, thank you.
Well, Aubrey's only the second woman to be a guest on this stream. The only other one is the inimitable Lady of Shalott. I should also mention to the audience that Lady of Shalott put out a video yesterday. So do go and check out Lady of Shalott's new video, which is based on a Kipling poem. So go and check that out. Mitch, did you have a first subject you wanted to bring up this evening?
I'll probably screen share between. There's it. Oh, which tweet? Where's the tweet?
People might be able to hear the blackbirds singing in the background from me. Maybe not because I'm wearing headphones, but we have blackbirds here in Victoria, and as people will know, they tend to sing when it's dark, and it's still dark. So there you go.
Yeah, so that's kind of the first subject. It's a very controversial topic, so we'll word it so that we don't fall afoul of YouTube standards and whatnot. But it's basically a poll saying, how does Britain view violence towards refugees and immigrants? And to put it simply, a third of the population are on board with the idea of just doing violence because they feel it's the only means of
Mitch, Mitch, just to make it clear, none of us here, of course, support violence. YouTube, we don't support violence at all.
No,
but we're discussing a poll that was put out to the British public, and you have to say that when the British public have been ignored for decades in their desire to stop mass immigration, when every time someone does a petition or someone tries to vote, it's just ignored. And I think this is why this poll result has come about. People are just bloody frustrated. But Mitch, carry on, mate. It's your story.
Yeah, so 39% of the British public surveyed 1,278 people responded to this, of whom 39% agreed with the question of, when it comes to the refugee problem, violence is sometimes the only means that citizens have to get the attention of British politicians. And the fact that 39% of the population agree with that particular statement. If I was Starmer, I'd be literally shitting bricks at the responses to this.
I think he is, Mitch. I mean, that's part of the overreaction that he has done, where, you know, people are getting put away for months and years for very innocent postings on the internet, basically.
Yeah, there was one guy who got blocked away.
Retired dudes, little old ladies, 12-year-old boys.
Yeah, there's like a guy over in Lincolnshire who ran a Twitter account by the name of Sick of It. I'm kind of conflicted on that guy because he put out some really false information about the attacker, like Stabber, about Southport, about Southport stabbing being a Muslim when it was clear it wasn't. It was a Rwandan, but he still kept on insisting it. And of course, the government went DEFCON 1 upon him because basically he was inflaming tensions, plus also the fact that he was zeroing in on false information of the attacker being a Muslim when he actually wasn't. But the fact is, we know how the institutions behave. The Muslims get what they want and sod with it and sod us, the actual white taxpayers. So,
when people call him two-tier, when people call Starmer two-tier care, they're not joking. There is a definite two-tier policing in the UK at the moment. There's one law for immigrants, and there's a totally different and harsher law for Indigenous Anglo-Celtic Brits.
Yeah, it's. The second statement, of whom 34% of the public agreed, which states attacks against refugees' homes are sometimes necessary to make it clear to the politicians that we have a refugee problem. So,
just to make it clear to you two, Mitch is not saying this. We're not saying this. This is what the poll is saying.
This is just us reporting about a startling
We're
trend.
Reporting on a poll, that's all.
Yeah. Ideally, we wanted it to be like 0 or close to 0 as possible. So,
and if the politicians ever listen to the British public, it probably would be close to 0.
Yeah. So you got 34% who are pretty much on board with theoretically doing like the kind of stuff that you'd see in Ulster, where houses would get firebombed or whatever. So you're a third of the population, literally.
Well, I mean, it's even funnier than that, because this has actually driven the Ulster Unionists and the Nationalists in Northern Ireland together. They were marching arm in arm against mass immigration.
Yeah. I've heard. I remember commenting about that at the time, and because the thing about my Twitter feed is if I comment about anything regarding Ireland, let's say it's something apolitical, like I'm mentioning Irish folklore, like Irish mythology, I will just get a sea of Irish Republican, like Sinn Féin types, just coming and going, these Ulster, the Republicans who are on side with the loyalists here, they're not actual Republicans. And they've got no proof of this; they just insist. But
what they mean is they're not Brits out, Somalian in Republicans. That's what they mean.
Yeah, pretty much. Then the third statement: xenophobic acts of violence are defensible if the result is fewer refugees being settled in their town, of whom 36% agreed with that statement.
I would also object to the term refugees, because the overwhelming majority of them are in no sense refugees. They're economic migrants.
Yeah, apparently Germany has started chucking out some of their quote-unquote refugees because they holidayed in the place they originally came from.
Yeah, no, so that's right. Afghans. They were Afghans, and they were going back to Afghanistan for holidays. That's how much they were scared of being in Afghanistan. They're going there for a holiday. Such hypocrisy.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about Sweden. They're starting to do some remigration. They've started giving financial incentives to people to go back to their countries of origin. So, and you got to think that's not even like that's like you got to think like the government in Sweden is like a Swedish Democrats who are basically Nigel Farage tier kind of people, not our people. They're Nigel Farage types. So the fact that you're getting remigration from most types in Sweden kind of tells you that. And there's a few conservative types I knew on Twitter who also saying the same that they reckon by the time of the next election you're going to see mass deportations or / remigration being part of the Reform Manifesto by the time of the next election. Given the way the wind is blowing.
I definitely agree with Horace and Steve Laws that remigration is inevitable at some stage or another. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah, I reckon by the end of the decade, it'll be a mainstream policy adopted by the likes of. I mean, I don't know if Nigel Farage will adopt it. I think it would just be a matter of we have to pressure him that way. And I think, Atom as a member of Reform, I'm probably going to join by the end of the year if the conference next month sails all right and my goals all right in terms of the messaging they put out. I think John Cavalier said it best.
What did he say, man?
Well, John Cavalier last week, he said pretty much, oh yeah, look, the Tories are done for and Reform can get some momentum after the conference next month.
Oh, that's really good news. I used to know John Cavalier pretty well online. And at the time, he was still conservative. So if he's supporting Reform, good on him. That's what I'd say. Definitely good on him. I mean, the other thing, to me, the main thing is if Farage sticks to his statement that mass immigration must end now, then all of us who are Anglo-Celtic Brits, if we don't support him, we're bloody well crazy. Because there's nobody else. Nobody else.
Yeah, I don't know what you made of him, because the Lotus Eaters had that Catherine Blakelock woman who she's anti-Farage because he's not pro-Tommy Robinson, and I'm sitting there thinking, I feel like the Lotus Eaters are, they do some good, but they've been a complete mistake by shilling Tommy Robinson to do some sort of alliance with Farage.
Yeah.
Why would Farage endanger his movement to get with Tommy Robinson when Tommy Robinson is what would be the best term in regards to Tommy Robinson? Damaged goods.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's certain things around Tommy Robinson and his drug use. I think there's certain things around Tommy Robinson, his alleged drug use, I beg your pardon. And there's also, more importantly, in my opinion, certainly some issues about his, shall we say, Zionist funding.
It's like the guy will shill like that Harman Singh Kapoor, like a Sikh illegal immigrant from Afghanistan. But if it was illegal immigration going into Israel, he would have a complete different tone about such immigration. So, yeah, he's just a Pied Piper for nefarious reasons. But to finish off this, 32% of respondents agreed with the statement. Hostility against refugees is sometimes justified, even if it ends in violence. To which 32% agreed. So, hostility, I mean, that's a very broad term. So that could just be like being rude in the supermarket or whatever. So, I'm surprised that's not higher than the other ones, which are a lot more overt. I said,
the thing I notice, Mitch, is that they use this language and they say refugees, when the overwhelming majority of these people are in no real sense refugees. They're economic migrants.
Yeah, it's quite something that it's quite something that you still have a third of respondents to that poll still let's just say not going with a trend. I'm trying to I don't know how best to put it, but
had enough, mate. I think many people have just had enough of decades of being ignored. Because mass immigration has never ever been popular in Britain. No one's ever asked for it, except our supposed, in air quotes, elites.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what? I mean, at the very least, you can trace back to like Enoch Powell at the very latest, if not earlier, with like the Teddy Boys, just always expressing opposition to even just like what was the net migration? What was the migration numbers like back in like the 1960s? Like 50,000 people a year or something like that. And people were opposed to it back then, let alone now.
Tiny compared to today.
Yeah.
Adam, good evening, mate. Sorry, Mitch. I thought you'd finished. You carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, I'm just going to agree with Gently Benevolent. Yeah, you got some people who probably agree with the statements on this, but won't dare say it when questioned. But also, you got to think a lot of illegal migrants might be answering this poll, so I won't be surprised if you could. So, if you go and buy this poll, you could actually have a majority of white English or white British men in general agreeing with his statements. So
Generally Benevolent is entirely correct in the chat, and yeah, I agree with him too. And I'd say it's more than 10%. I'd say it's more like 25%. But definitely. I was just going to say good evening, Arman. And Arman, did you have any comment you wanted to make about this poll we've been talking about, which I'm sure you've seen?
Not really. I mean, I was just absolutely flabbergasted when it came out. I did check in on the company that did it. I don't know if anyone's spoken about this already. We Think Polling. They are signed up with the British Polling Council, so they're generally speaking legitimate. And I looked at a lot of the other polls that they conducted on stuff like Trump versus Kamala in the US and various other polls, and they just seem fairly middle of the road. The results kind of tallied up with everyone else's, so which then just kind of goes to say just how stark this is. I was quite shocked by it. But then again, like I've said before, like there's I can count like 3 or more people in my office who say the sort of comments that I couldn't repeat on here because the police will be knocking down my door, about taking certain action when people get off the dinghies at Dungeness and things like that.
Yeah. Exactly what you're talking about.
So that does map. That does kind of map over polls like this. But it is quite shocking, especially when you consider that means that there's almost, if you consider like the amount of adults who voted for Labour out of the population, that means that you've potentially got twice as many people that think that, and I quote, xenophobic acts of violence are necessary. They think that this is like the last possible thing, and we're at that point, than people who voted for Labour. And of course, since Labour won that vote, their support's actually gone down. So, we could see a point in the next month or two where it's actually 3 times as many people believe in acts of violence.
I don't know what you guys think about this, but I think if Farage plays his cards right, and he might, because he's a fairly shrewd guy, in my opinion, I think he has a genuine chance of winning the next general election.
Yeah. I mean, I think Mitch brought this up maybe a few streams ago that, Labour won a scant couple of seats in their first election and then went on to win an enormous amount in their second. I don't think it was enough to win, but the trajectory of reform definitely seems to be steeper than you would generally see from most up and coming parties. Partly because they got Farage enemy, but there is a lot going on ahead. Obviously there's a little inter-party battle between the Ben Habibs and the Farages versus the Tices and the whatever this other guy's name is.
Yeah. The guy Mitch doesn't like and who I don't like either, to be honest.
Although I will also say that Tice has gotten better. Like he had.
Yes, he has. He
made that comment a while ago about defending the police at Hare Hills, and then he got a bit cringe, but he's actually started coming back out again really strong in this last week. So.
Yeah, he's improved since he became an MP. He's improved.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot to play for. There's a lot that could go wrong, but it's going to be quite the roller coaster ahead. Always think of that Mosley quote where he says, "I do not wish to live at any other time than this."
I think also though, one thing that I was very pleased about is that all 6 of the so-called, in air quotes, Conservative Party candidates have said they won't have Farage, and I reckon that's excellent. I think it's really good.
Yeah. The thing is, as well, is that here's another thing, of course. So Starmer apparently in quotes did a lot to win back that red wall, he's now gone and thrown half of them in prison. I'm being a slightly hyperbolic, right? But you know,
Yep.
But the thing is at the same time, like, I mean, does anyone? I mean, this is a bit of a black pill, and it's a bit early for them, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. You know, anyone that remembers like Dagenham came frighteningly close to electing a BNP MP, probably the closest that anywhere in the country got.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not sure if that's strictly true, but it was right up there anyway. And then if you look at Dagenham census data from 2001 to 2011, they demographically totally transformed that town in that time. It was faster than anywhere else in the country that I can think of. I believe
also, if I remember correctly, Mitch, it was also a place that once upon a time was a big British car industry place. Like
yes.
Loads of people built cars there, and of course, all that closed down basically.
Yeah, and they still play off of that. You know, you'll see Billy Bragg in The Guardian, or you know, on Twitter, banging on about how great Dagenham is because it saw off reform or this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. Dagenham, working class town, this, that, and the other, back in the old days, whatever, rah rah.
Yeah,
and it's like, right, but
being replaced.
Yeah, well, more than that, I think I'm gonna have to double check this because I really don't want to spread misinformation. Not in Starmer's Britain, but
yeah, you no, otherwise the stormtroopers will come and get you, man.
yes, the stormtroopers. But but yeah, they literally transformed that town like more than anywhere. I am going to be checking, but I'm pretty sure it went from like close to from less than 1/3 non-white British to less than 1/3 white British.
And of course, Dagenham itself was originally one of the places that white Londoners left and went there when they did that big exodus to Essex, supposedly.
Yes, yeah, that also transformed those communities. You know, I mean, they're all obviously white British people that left, so those communities stayed. You could say white, but of course they were then overwhelmed by people that had forgotten what it was like to live in a community. That had become very insular because of their experiences living in the places that they came from, and that's ruined a lot of those parts of Essex too.
Oh yeah, I know, man, for sure. I mean, I have relatives in Thetford in Norfolk, and Thetford was another place where they put up a big new town, and a lot of Londoners moved there. And I love Norfolk. You know, my son's got a house quite close to where Nelson was born. But the area around Thetford has been ruined because it's no longer Norfolk guys at all, you know. And I don't think it's yet been overtaken too much with black and brown immigrants. But even the people who moved there from London, as you say, by the time they moved there, they kind of lost their community already, you know.
Yeah.
Or their community feeling. You know?
So I've just checked the census data, and in 2001, Dagenham and Barking Borough was 80% white British, 80.8, and as of 2021, it was 30.9.
That's a very extreme, very, very fast change.
Yeah, and even from 2001 to 2011, it went from 80% to 49%.
Wow.
About over 40,000 white British people essentially left Barking and Dagenham in that time.
Yep. I mean,
and that, bearing in mind as well, over 50 years from 1971 to 2021, it went from 98% to 30.9%.
It's just appalling, mate. I mean, one of the things about white flight is that doing it, you get chased from place to place. And in a relatively small island like Britain, we're going to rapidly run out of places to do flight to.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see this in America, don't you? Where you have, for example, I mean, AA obviously did that video a while ago, white flight, black flight, or was it the other way around? Something like that. Black flight, white flight. essentially you end up in this instance where if you're like the white diaspora or the European diaspora, or in this instance the white British, you just kind of get chased around the country like indefinitely. Whites are now taking back over some of the old black boroughs from London, but they're going to be chased back into those places eventually.
Yeah, no, I do totally agree. Aubrey, did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
No.
All right. I think we've probably covered it. I mean, yeah, just to be clear, YouTube, we do not support violence in any way, shape, or form. But this was reporting on a poll of the British public.
Yeah, only 39% of us support violence.
I mean, I guess I would say, though, that it is pretty indicative of the exact same situation we've got over here, where I think people are in the US, where I think people are starting to wake up, I hope, a bit to the problem. We've got a huge problem now, right, with our wall. Last I heard, it was over 12 million immigrants that have come in.
Well, I've heard anything up to 25 million, but who knows? They don't count them properly. So,
right, exactly. I mean, divide it and multiply it.
I mean, most people will tell you the number of illegal immigrants in Britain is probably twice what the government says it is. So, I mean,
Yeah, some do believe that based on like, certain data points. But some of that's based on supermarket planners who I think are notoriously not very accurate. But it could well be true. It's the thing is the way that they used to record.
How many customers they might be interested? How many customers they have?
Yeah, sure, but they're also just not very good at their job. But the thing is, of course, is that it's highly possible because the way that they used to record it was they used to just have some bod sitting in the airports just asking people as they came in, and that they only did it in 3 major airports for like 2 or 3 decades, and they would only approach certain types of travelers, and it just so happens that the sort of groups that are probably undercounted are the sort of groups that fall into the categories that they weren't approaching in those airports, or didn't come into those airports full stop. So
yeah, they might have come in through Dover. They could have come in all sorts of ways. I mean, there's a lot of airports in Britain. But,
like, because you get some people saying that we've got a population of more like 80 million, which I would say, well, so it's reported where we've got like 70 million people at this point. How are you? So where do those sewage and supermarket type people, where do they think that these extra 10 million people are? Because I don't know how you can have a census where we only got like 70 million people, but then there's like 10 million surplus who are living here off of radar. I mean, I can imagine we got like a few more million people because
yes.
What was that guy Acid Abdul from like back in February who did an acid attack and he just disappeared? Like there was a complete infrastructure out there just for people to disappear off the grid if they're illegal immigrants. So
yeah, they can always get a job with Deliveroo or any of these services that where they're supposedly not a worker but they're subcontracted or however they term it. It's not difficult for people to do it that way. And then we all know of cases of houses in the UK which have like 30 people living in them and stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah. To echo on Aubrey's point, so it's like it's often the case where if we have a political trend over here, it reverberates in America as well. For example, we had Brexit and then Trump happened after. Because we had the riots this year, I reckon. I think Kamala Harris is going to win. I think the demographic change plus how awful Trump has been the past few days on immigration kind of spells that Kamala Harris is going to win, and you're just going to get riots in America because, of course,
I don't think she's going to win, Mitch, but I think she could win.
I think she's going. I mean, like 90% of the population growth that's happened since Biden got into power has been Hispanics, and Hispanics vote 2/3 Democrat.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I've said all along, I think that in the Democratic blue states, they will absolutely con it as much as they can.
Yeah.
Trump's chance is he has to be so overwhelmingly popular that they can't con it in those blue states.
I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's gonna win it because I mean, I'll probably I don't know if I can play video. I'll probably share another tab, not another. It was just like a video of Trump.
Don't give us a video to play, mate, because honestly, my computer won't cope with it. If you've got a still, that's fine, but don't give us a video.
Yeah, it's a Twitter. It's a tweet. You'll just see that.
If it comes up, I'll put it up. There you go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Basically, we're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to get the energy prices down almost immediately, and we're going to close the border, and we're going to get the crooked ones out, the bad ones out, and we're going to let a lot of people come in because we need more people, especially with AI coming and all of the different things, and the farmers need, everybody needs. But we're going to make sure that they're not murderers, killers, drug dealers, and the kind of people that we have largely coming in right now. Okay?
Mr. President.
Yeah, I
think he has to say that.
Yeah, maybe, but let me just say one thing. I do not understand this idea that because AI is coming in, you need more people.
This is literally
AI is going to lose people jobs. It's not going to gain them.
Yeah. It's weird that he's like suddenly parroting Musk's argument.
Yep, after Musk.
Well, they just have their talk. So.
Yeah, this is literally Musk's exact argument on automation and legal immigration. He wants legal immigration to be massively increased, and he wants to roll out enormous amounts of automation, which are kind of they're not even matching arguments, but you know.
No, they're not. But he's a bit autistic.
Yeah.
I noticed this. Did you watch the Musk-Trump interview, Armin?
Yes, I did. It had some banger bits in it, but it was more comedic.
It was very
comedic value.
It was very, very strange. I don't understand. Some of the things that Musk comes out with are just very strange. I mean, he's definitely autistic. You know, he's on that spectrum for sure.
Yeah. As I don't think Trump's going to win this election because I mean, he was saying stuff like that. Like, imagine you're in Texas, right? You're seeing your neighborhood swamped with Mexicans, whether they be illegal or legal. And then you got Trump saying, "Oh, we're still going to bring loads of people in. It'll just be legal."
Yeah, but there are jobs that people here don't really want to do. That I mean, I don't know.
The thing is, it's like
I don't think a lot of Americans are wanting to work on. I don't know. I shouldn't say that.
Well, it's like agriculture, for example. They pay shit wages, for example.
Right.
So
people don't want to work poor jobs. But I mean, that's happened in Britain. There are quite a lot of jobs in Britain, which if there were not 50 million, sorry, I'm exaggerating, you know, if there were not enormous numbers of black and brown immigrants that would be higher paid than they are. And then you would get native people wanting to do those jobs.
Well, I think we need to also just like focus on getting people. Why are we only getting people from Mexico? Why don't we start getting people that want to come over from Europe? I mean, especially now with all the immigrants flowing into your countries. I mean, maybe some people want to come here. You know, it used to be that we looked for people that had something to contribute to our society, right? We brought over scientists and biologists, and you had to have something to contribute, right? I mean, that's what it was.
I still don't see how bringing AI in, which basically is going to lose a lot of clerical people.
So is he saying tech?
Actually, a lot of women. No, but when AI comes in, before it comes in, it's going to lose lots of lower clerical jobs, particularly women's jobs, I might add, actually. Loads of women are going to lose their
and maybe they'll go back home and raise their kids.
So I mean, that depends on if the labour market tightens, because that's one thing that I mean, that's the thing. Like, let's say Trump, for argument's sake, he just closed the border. Let's say he just closed the borders and he went no more immigrants for the rest of his term, and he also did the mass deportations, not just of the illegal immigrants, but also he just mass deported lots of Indians, for example, because why the bloody hell does America have loads of Indians? As we can attest over here, as Canada and Britain can attest, Indians are not a good immigrant caste to have.
But I'd just like to say, Mitch, I mean, if you're a right-wing American at the upcoming election, who the hell do you vote for? You've only got Trump or Kamala Harris.
Don't vote. I mean, Trump's gonna do a mass immigration anyway, so you might as well not bother.
Well, is he though?
You literally just listen to bloody videos. He's saying he's just gonna open up the borders even more. He's just gonna do it
illegally. No. He's not gonna do that. I don't believe that for a second that he's gonna do that.
So he's saying like we need a lot more people, even though with a lot more AI. I'll just abstain.
He halved legal immigration in his last term. But yeah, if he's to be taken on his word now, then I wouldn't.
If you're going to take his word,
I don't see why you wouldn't know.
But I mean, even in that instance, if you're a right-wing American and you abstain, as you're saying and as people in the chat are saying, that's just going to let Kamala Harris win, and Kamala Harris is
but that's not like, the thing. Like, if Trump's not a good candidate, then we're not obligated. Then no one's obligated to support him. Like we expect much better than that.
Yeah, but that's what. So you're going to just not vote then and let Kamala come in? I mean, unless you want our economy to just collapse completely, which is going to happen if we have. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen an election that is so crucial. And I know people say that, every probably election, but I truly don't. In my lifetime, we haven't.
We've just had this vote essentially in Britain though, where we have basically
the most radical vice president on her ticket now. I mean, he's like straight up. That guy is just nutty anyway. But and she is too. I mean. And think about just how she's going to handle foreign relations. My God, the woman can't even speak.
She does seem to show up to half.
The vice president also pretends to be a combat veteran when the closest he got to combat was Italy.
Right. So I'll tell you what, the military
the Italians were killing Americans in 2000. So
yeah, the military guys are definitely going to be voting for Trump.
I don't know how many. I saw quite a few military veterans on Twitter who are saying they're going to vote for Kamala. I don't understand their rationale.
Really?
But yeah,
why?
They were lefty.
I don't understand it either. So
no, I do. They were lefty. They were lefty military.
Well, yeah, if they're already starting off at the left, but I can tell you just from when we were down at Fort Bragg, I mean, those guys, they are like wholesome, good old red state boys,
But the thing is, we basically just had this election, which is.
Hang on, to be fair, Fort Bragg, that's not even called Fort Bragg anymore.
No, now it's Fort Liberty, which people are not happy about.
Yeah,
and all the guys still call it Fort Bragg.
Yeah, of course they do, because they're mostly Southern boys.
Stupid. Fort Liberty. They just changed the base in Fort Benning as well. It's like Fort Freedom.
You can't have American military bases named after Confederate generals, even though they were good American commanders. It's crazy.
Right. I mean, right? How dare they? Well, the thing that I worry about two things. I worry about just whether we can trust the election results anyway. I just have a very bad feeling about this. And we just had, and you guys might know, I can't remember what company it was that my friend's company was affected, where the internet was just wiped out. And it makes me nervous that that might have been a little bit of a test run, so that it's spaced far enough away from the election. Maybe I'm starting to get paranoid, but
I mean, we had that here in a few places. So yeah. I think that's just incompetency.
I don't know. It just concerns me.
It was the same thing, Adam, and that Aubrey's talking about. That it was something to do with a company that supposedly does security, but they did something wrong. And
yeah, so I'm concerned about the result, the being able to trust the results. I mean, we know we couldn't from the last election, but I just think if we don't start making some ground again on the conservative side, then we're going to lose it. We're going to lose our chances, I think, for the next, I don't know how many decades, honestly.
I mean, but the thing is, I mean, we had, I mean, you have that Molly Hemingway book, Rigged, where she went into some of the legalisms. I mean, none of that's been sort of combated in any substantial way since the last election. So that's going to be a problem this election.
Yeah.
You also had, I mean, I saw a thing, this was actually quite recently, that there was that, like, I think it was Biden won Arizona by like 10,500 votes. And they found that there was like, there was nearly 12,000 illegitimate federal votes in the state of Arizona. In some instances, they seem to, I'm not sure if it's particularly that widespread, but in some instances, they seem to use immigrants coming in from the South, illegal migrants, as just a means to scrape data that they can use to fabricate votes. But
absolutely.
Yeah, and that happens I suppose that was what was happening in Arizona. That's why we saw what we did. But
with the first Obama election, where I live, they were saying that, I mean, there was a huge story, and of course nothing came of it. No one was prosecuted, but they had, number one, they had Black Panthers that had somehow like regrouped again, and they were standing outside of voting stations, and they were like, basically a lot of white voters were leaving because they felt threatened. They were being threatened. So there's, check mark number one. Then they found all of these, after the election, of course, results came in and were declared. They found all these results, all these votes that had come in under the name of like dead people. Some of them were like as blatant as saying like Mickey Mouse, and they were voting multiple times, and nothing was done about it. Nobody does anything once it's declared, which
well, I mean, they found this previously, didn't they? I think it was in 1960. I'm not sure if they actually found that it was enough to overturn the election, but basically the judgment then was it didn't matter that Nixon had the dirty done on him, because they just admitted at the time there's no procedure in place to unseat the president once they're in there. So you could, I mean, I don't even think they could just more blatantly rig it than they already do, and there's not really a great deal you can do about it.
Right. Right. It's a difficult thing to disprove.
I think there have been some moves, Alman, in Republican red states, and for anyone who's not an American, the Americans do everything arse about face. So the blue states are the left-wing states, and the red states are the right-wing states. But in red states, they have done some things to make elections fairer. But obviously,
but
not in Democrat-controlled states at all.
I just signed up to be for Trump's like team. I'm putting little air quotes up there to do security, like for the polls, not like security, right? I'm not very intimidating. Watching the polls. They're trying to have just somebody.
The thing is, though, not to rag on like American conservatives, because obviously we have exactly the same problem here, but the conservative states shouldn't just be shoring themselves up for fairer elections. They should be doing the same fight from their own side, because it's all right that they shore it up against legalism, but then like if you go and look at somewhere like Georgia, you've still got thousands of liberal New Yorkers moving there, because since lockdown they all now work from home and they can live wherever they want. And they just demographically changed the state in terms of voting patterns.
Right.
So,
that's partly the story in Texas also, because so many Californians have moved to Texas.
Freaking California, God. And it still pisses me off that just with and I'm not for turning over the Electoral College, but the Republicans are at such a disadvantage just right off the bat. I mean, it's almost monumental once you count California's votes. It's such an uphill battle from there.
There was one thing I did want to mention that has come out over the last week about the assassination attempt on Trump, is that one of his Secret Service agents wasn't doing her job when he was shot at because she was breastfeeding her baby.
No.
True story. It's come out now.
That
She'd gone to breastfeed her baby.
How does that happen?
Well, why did he
have a baby there?
Exactly. She shouldn't be working.
Oh my God.
You just shouldn't have been working.
It's repulsive.
Well, is that what is that phrase? Stochastic terrorism, I call it, where you just rev up the rhetoric as well as make the conditions possible for something like this to happen. So you got plausible deniability, but at the same time, you try to ensure as best you can that your target gets wiped out. So that's what they tried to do to Trump by putting loads of women in his Secret Service detachment. Because, trusting a load of 5'4" women to take care of a guy who's, and Trump's like 6'2" in here or something like that.
Yeah.
So he towers over these women.
Women aren't even tall enough to cover him.
Yeah, they can't cover him. They literally cannot do the job. But they also can't do the job if they're off breastfeeding their baby.
No,
they should be on leave.
God,
if you're going to have women doing that job at all, if they're breastfeeding a baby, they should be on leave. They shouldn't be working.
Absolutely. Why would you bring a baby to that scene anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Because imagine if something went really wrong and there was a huge bomb there or something. Would you want your baby there?
You're not going to be able to tend to your baby if you're like, and you know what? There were bombs in his vehicle. So he had more plans.
Right. Yep.
This was not the end there. Right. Yeah. He did. So that's not the end game there. But
But it just goes to my insane. It's putting women in jobs they shouldn't be doing, basically.
And it makes us all look so stupid. It really does. God. Anyway.
But as to the idea of abstaining from voting for Trump, whether Trump just loses because people don't come out or because the things we've just talked about. We've just had this election here. The Tories lost. Everyone knew it was going to happen. Lots of people of our persuasion either didn't vote or came out and voted for all sorts of side parties, and basically handed the victory to Labour and to Keir. And of course, some people are now out there doing some sort of buyer's remorse where they're now saying, look, actually, Peter Hitchens and that were right. But I thought we all knew what we were signing up for. I thought we all knew this was going to be a little painful and that we were just going to have to endure, 4.5, 5 years of this stuff.
To be fair, Adam and I always said, vote for Argent reform. I always said that. I never said vote for.
But we also didn't think they would win. We knew we were kind of splitting the vote.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, I would never have supported voting for Starmer myself.
Well, my question is, how far do we have to go? Of course, in history, the pendulum swings, right? But how far do we have to go before people wake up? And then that's what I fear with all these immigrants coming in, is that it's going to be too late then when we do, which I think it might be already. That's what you guys talk about, all the time. But I don't know. What do you guys think about Robert Kennedy if he dropped out?
Excuse me a second, Aubrey.
Sorry.
Guys, please don't post in my chat, because if you do, you'll get temporarily banned.
I will say, when I saw that Trump clip that Mitch played earlier, I was a bit like, fucking prick shouldn't miss next time.
Yeah, but no, not really, because none of us would actually support the poor bugger being shot, of course.
No.
Or anyone.
Come on, no. So, but what do you guys think about if Kennedy drops? Typically it's the Republicans that are harmed by independents running. So if he were to, I don't know, I just read something saying that he approached Kamala about a cabinet position, though. So I don't know, but if he drops, that could probably help Trump, I think.
It most certainly would. The funny thing is that Kennedy's like a really, just a massive shit lib. He's just he's just not 100% Democrat on like one issue. And that's enough to get people to go for him instead of, whatever Republican nomination it was going to be. I mean, that would absolutely help Trump. But why would RFK be interested in a cabinet position with Harris?
I don't know. It's just the story I read. So
I'm just going to ask Happy Curse Plague Doctor in the chat, talking about Harold Wilson and there were plot allegations and all that. All I would say to you, Happy Curse Plague Doctor, and I am just about old enough to remember Harold Wilson because I'm an old bastard. There were quite strong rumors at the time that he was somehow related to the Soviet Union. Quite strong, and it wouldn't surprise me some of the really bad things he did for Britain.
Well, I mean, was it Lord Mountbatten who was the main linchpin behind the possible coup, but the Queen told them all to pack it in because, oh no, we must save our democracy. So
yeah.
So
listen, I'm no fan of Mountbatten. I mean, Mountbatten was being cucked by Nehru when he was the last viceroy of India. So I'm no fan of Mountbatten myself.
Yeah, but I mean, I would forgive him for that if he were to do a coup and get rid of.
If he got rid of Wilson, yeah, absolutely, that would have been a different story entirely. But he didn't.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Like, I mean, for example, was Mountbatten, for example, pro Rhodesia, or was it just all about?
Not particularly.
I thought it was other stuff like that. Because I mean, I know like Harold Wilson was like a full-on. Well, I mean, like allegations that he was compromised with it. Like, I mean, was it Czechoslovaks or something like some communist?
Well, Wilson was told by the chief of the general staff that the British armed forces could not be trusted to fight against white Rhodesians who were their kith and kin. He was
Rhodesians were on a per capita basis.
Yeah.
The most loyal subjects.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Ian Smith was a Spitfire pilot in World War II. So, the leader of Rhodesia under UDI, Ian Smith, was a Spitfire pilot and was quite badly injured in World War II. So, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's and that's. I mean, there's like, and to this day, there's still huge arguments on Twitter about whether the House of Windsor is redeemable, which the Queen frustrating that little coup from ever happening is like, well, I mean, Apostolic Majesty also says it best with which king was
she
in
gave up all the
1911?
powers she had. Yeah, she abrogated all the powers that she did originally have, basically.
So who would be able to come in and take over? I mean, who would an alternate be?
Well, the thing is, the monarch of Britain is still officially the head of state,
right?
And he's still officially the head of the armed forces. So basically, if the monarch, and back in the 1960s, the monarch had more power than they have now, and the reason they have less power now is because the Queen the ex-Queen, the late Queen.
It's essentially symbolic now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Why would she have done that? Why did she advocate that?
Because she was as much of a traitor as the rest of our political class. So that's my problem you had. I mean, to be fair, Apostolic Majesty puts it down as which king was it? It was King George VI back in 1911, because he defanged the House of Lords. That was at the beginning of the end, really.
Yeah, he went along with the Liberal Party, which included in those days Winston Churchill, by the way, to completely detooth the House of Lords. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I'm on the same page as Cromwell in regards to the monarchy at this point. I mean, I'm up for bringing back the House of Wessex, but I don't know who we've got. descended from most. Like,
Mitch,
but to be fair,
I would take the House of Wessex or a Plantagenet. Either would be better than
Plantagenet's a French duke, so they're shilling for foreigners.
No. The last, I don't know who he is now, but the last time I knew who the closest Plantagenet pretender was, he was a cattle station owner in Australia, and trust me, he wasn't French. So there you go.
Right, where did the Plantagenets come from? They came from Normandy.
Well,
So
originally, yeah, sure, mate. All right. But I know this is a big deal for you, but it isn't quite such a big deal for me. But you know,
well, I prefer not to have foreigners running my country, so I'll take the Anglo-Saxon.
Anyway, I'd take this Australian cattle station owner over the Windsors. But I also don't disagree with you. I mean, if there was a decent House of Wessex guy, yeah, sure, no problem.
Well, the thing is, I mean, it's like Henry Tudor had the sketchiest claim one could have in regards to taking a monarchy. All you got to do is just find someone out there who's descended from someone like Robert the Bruce or Harold Godwin's and Alfred the Great.
Yeah.
And just give him and like these, like, you know, like, you can imagine someone. I mean, for we know, someone like AI could be descended from Alfred the Great and just put him in charge.
Yeah, look, Mitch,
so how would that happen, though?
I'm not disagreeing.
Well, same with Henry the Tudor. Like the thing is, like Henry Tudor, Henry VII had the sketchiest claim you could have, but he still was accepted as a king because he won.
And he was a Welshman, by the way. The Tudors were Welsh, by the way. But yeah, basically, the Tudors are basically Welsh. Mitch.
So would they fight in court as for a more like a heavier legal, stance to the throne or something? I mean, what would they do? How would that happen?
Well, I suppose. I mean, to be fair, it's just a matter of will and peril, really. I mean,
yep.
So, as I said, like Henry Tudor. I mean, he was like his claim literally rested upon the fact that Henry's father was a half brother of Henry VI. And that's been like the claim was sketchy as hell, but it didn't matter. The fact was he won the battle. Like after winning the Battle of Bosworth, he was just crowned king because there was no one to challenge him. So he was actually just a hostile. It's the same when William the Bastard took over. Like he had the sketchiest claim. He had no claim to the throne whatsoever because the Witten didn't choose him, but it didn't matter. He won the Battle of Hastings. Yeah. And he decapitated our elites. So all you gotta do is just, if you had something like, let's say for argument's sake, AI from the Southwest, if we just paroled him into Buckingham Palace, put a crown on his head, and told everyone, this is your king now, so long as we got rid of all the other rival claimants to the throne, that's it. That guy's our king, as far as everyone's concerned. So it's really just that simple in terms of putting a guy in charge of the monarchist institution.
We're getting to fairly esoteric areas now, I think. Atman, did you have a first subject you wanted to bring up this evening?
No, I do not.
All right. In that case, Aubrey, did you have a first subject?
I was just going to talk about, again, going back to the U.S. because it's my area, right? I was just going to talk about how much, we were pretty cocky about Trump in the lead with Biden, and now it looks like Kamala is climbing right up above him now.
How much of that is astroturfed by the mainstream media, which is 95%?
A lot of it, of course, and of course, yeah, putting that all out there gets everybody like, yeah, their side. But I guess she is really getting a lot of people. She's going for the young vote on TikTok, and that's where we're screwed then, because the people on TikTok, my God, I'm sorry if any of you are, but.
Never been on TikTok in my life.
No, you don't want to.
That said, I remember when they were banging on about how she got that 1 million liked TikTok, the first one, and people were banging on about how big of a deal this was. But then I literally went on Trump's page, and like the last 4 out of 5 of the TikToks that he posted had over 3 million likes each. So, TikTok is a cesspool.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure if she's quite beating him out even on there, though.
Well, the thing
When he's
about
back
TikTok is
on Twitter as well now.
Well, the fact is, like with TikTok, or you like, I mean, there's plenty of our guys on TikTok, and that's the thing about. Because I saw something was apparently there was these shitlibs on LBC complaining about their young their daughters or whatever who are like my age group are flocking over to Farage because they saw some like really good Farage edits on TikTok. So you start by thinking, all you need is just like a good guy running your social media on TikTok, and Matty, you can get like you literally get hundreds of thousands of Zoomers on your side just by having like a really good kind of vibe. And Aubrey knows how much I hate that word because it's so overused.
Could I the Farage little clips though, and I thought they were great. I thought they were pretty funny.
Could I just point out to people in the chat, the Franklin should be joining us within the next half an hour. He said he couldn't make it until somewhere close to 7:30, and so we'll probably go an extra. He'll be on for about an hour when he comes on. But yeah, so he is going to join us, as far as I know.
Okay.
And also, if you want to support the channel or you want to ask a super chat question, if you go to the top of the chat, you will find there's a pinned link to Entropy where you can do that. Sorry, guys, carry on.
I was just going to say one more thing too, that, the problems you guys are having over in the UK now, that's something that I kind of thought with regard to free speech. I thought, well, we've got that in, we're protected here, right? But it's coming our way too. The liberal like madhouse is they're talking about, putting people in jail for charges because all they have to do is make it a hate crime. Which I hate that term because in my mind, murder is murder, assault is assault, no matter who it's on, right? So I hate that term anyway.
Aubrey,
but that's
Aubrey, can I just interrupt you a second? The Franklin is trying to join us at the moment.
Sorry.
But he's just if he can hear me, your devices are not connected. So until they are, I can't join you into the chat. I can't join you onto the stream. It's saying your devices are not connected if you're listening to this. Sorry, Aubrey, carry on.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no, I think it's a scary thing. I just think that I don't know what I was saying. Yeah, about hate crimes and that it's coming our way, that they're talking about charges against people for saying anything that's, threatening. I mean, they just take these legal terms and they make them so hazy so that they can include this, like the incitement charges on Trump. I mean, it's really easy for a prosecutor to manipulate those. That's all I was going to say.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know if the Franklin can hear me, but I can't let you join the stream, mate, because it's saying your devices are not connected. So if you can hear me, that's the issue. Don't know that. Is there another way I can let him know, guys?
Just in private chat, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, let me try private chat. Oh, okay. He wants me to send him the link via his email. God, have I got Franklin's email? Yes, I have somewhere. All right, guys, you carry on talking because I'm going to be gone for a few minutes.
Guys.
So I've noticed that, I mean, I should have probably brought this up as a subject, but I've noticed they've been ramping up the sentencing for these people that they're putting through court at the moment. There seems to be more of them getting years and or custodial sentences full stop. And I think we saw there was like one guy that got 2 years. And we were like, wow. But now there's people getting like 6 years and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot more pushback where people have been bringing up the the fact that a lot of these judges have essentially let pedophiles walk free and stuff like that. And of course, a lot of people, you know, you've got that guy, what's his name? It's about calling the base barrister. What's his name? The secret barrister or whatever with the bunny emoji.
I thought it was going to be Gavin Bobby then for a second.
Oh no, but we should probably shield Gavin Bobby at some point though. Yeah, and it's like you know, they keep pointing to our sacred guidelines, our sentencing guidelines. The irony of the fact that the guy that wrote the guidelines is currently the Prime Minister pushing for these people to be imprisoned. It seems to be lost on these people. Yeah, well, Keir Starmer was head of public prosecutions. So
that's interesting.
He wrote a lot of the sentencing guidelines that allows, you know, these pedophiles to get off in most cases. But of course, if you read a lot of the judge's comments on sentencing, they actually admit that they're often going beyond the sentencing guidelines, even though these people are pleading guilty, probably persuaded to do so by their state-appointed solicitors. So these people are getting completely screwed over. They're not being shown the leniency that the actual sentencing guidelines instruct the judges to give them. And the judges
think of what that does to their lives too, to their families, to their livelihood, to their job opportunities afterwards. I mean, it's God, the impact that would have. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. But people have to wake up to this at some point, right? I mean, God, just read the freaking book 1984, people. You know?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think everyone that would get, you know, woken up is probably already awake at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was reading about some more about the Russian, like the Bolsheviks, and like I think the main ingredient as to why the Bolsheviks were able to get so far ahead in late 1917 was that you just get apathy on part of most of the population, like the army, the Cossacks, the politicians themselves just being very unpopular. So when the Bolsheviks make their move, no one moves a muscle. Like the Bolsheviks just have a complete open battlefield to work with.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the only reason why the white Russian army started to get assembling together was Bolsheviks. They'd just been complete and utter arseholes, to put it lightly. Like, there was one guy called Makhonin. He was like a Russian army officer in Crimea. Had a small farm. He had like one cow left because all the other cattle he had been taken by the army to feed the troops. He had one cow left to feed his small daughter. So the Bolsheviks come up to his farm in Crimea, say, "Oh, mate, can we borrow your? Can we have your cow because we need to feed our troops fighting white Russians?" Elsewhere, he said, "No, sorry, can't. I've got a daughter to feed," and so on. So the Bolsheviks responded by taking his young daughter and smashing her head against a rock, and then taking the cow with them.
Good God!
And it's stuff like that got a lot of army officers and a lot of the white Russian side to stop being so apathetic and fight. But by then it was too late. Like the Bolsheviks got so far ahead. So it's one of those things where perhaps it's too late for Americans so much because you're demographically worse off than us. Because I mean, I'd say we're going to win here in England because I mean, I think Keir Starmer, if not else, he's just exposed everything just by being so blatantly emotionally brittle and incompetent with how he's handling all this. Unfortunately, the only thing that's lacking on our side is the lack of leadership. I don't know, like in America, even if it's leadership, that's not particularly great, like Nick Fuentes and other guys like that.
We have some really good people though in politics right now that are some up and comers that I'm hopeful that maybe they'll kind of make their mark. But you know, I don't think the social demographic is as I think it's a lot wider than they try to like represent in the mainstream media, because I'm looking it up right now. But you know, white Americans still have the 61% of the population.
Yeah, whereas of course it's like just over 70-odd%. I believe like 73%, I believe, in the last census. And so
In England and Wales, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, but then again, it's also, I think it's like if you look at the constituencies on a map, the vast majority of them are still white British. So, if the white British all voted as one united bloc, or enough of them voted as one bloc, you could literally get hundreds of MPs straight off. Whereas in America, because of the Electoral College, it's without like you literally have to hold on to Texas as much as possible because once Texas goes, because of all Hispanics moving over,
and all the lefties moving into cities like Austin, and they're changing the demographic there. I mean, as far as left and right goes.
Guys, I'd just like to say good morning for me and him, but good evening for you guys, to the Franklin, our special guest for this evening. How are you going, sir?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Fine, mate. Yeah. Beg your pardon with the mix-up with the stream link.
You can't hear me?
You know, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I think yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
I think I've got a lag.
Is there a lag, chat? I think people in chat are saying they can hear you, Franklin.
I don't think there's a lag.
I can hear you. I can hear you fine.
Okay.
I don't know about anybody else, but I can hear you. Hello.
It seems like there's a lag at my end. After I speak, I don't hear myself for a couple of seconds.
All right. Well, do you want to go out and come back in again? Usually the way to sort that is to go out and come back in again.
Yeah, I'll do that.
This is such a potato of a computer. It's probably my fault, but who knows?
Harry Flashman in chat saying only 37% of those. I mean, you have South Africa where the Afrikaners was just a small minority, but they're able to punch above their weight. So, so the situation is never lost. Like, in my opinion, like even if let's say, even if let's say America tomorrow was, even if let's say America was at 40% white. I mean, sorry, I really don't think the larger Hispanic types, like MS-13 types, and the blacks and the Indians are going to be able to become some sort of grand coalition that's going to beat you for the white man. So so the idea that once we go minority, that's it, all is lost. Now that idea can go die.
It's keeping the white CEOs and executives and professors. It's trying to keep them on the right though, instead of going to the left. That's the problem.
Yeah, if you're into like the academic agent type of circles, you might think that the elite are fighting. Like you got Elon Musk, that wing of the elite who are more sort of quote unquote anti-woke. They want to walk back on a lot of the woke, but also they're still in favor of mass migration. They just prefer to be heavily high skilled. They don't want the kind of thing that doesn't really affect us, I would say, because I mean over here it's our government's literally declared war on you lot. Like our government's literally having the hubris of trying to think that they can extradite the likes of you because you say things about our situation over here that the government doesn't like. Even though the thing about the extradition treaty,
there's no chance.
Yeah, the thing about the extradition
chance of the British government extraditing people from overseas. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, because the problem is an extradition treaty we have between ourselves and the Americans is that someone like Aubrey can't be extradited for free speech because free speech is constitutionally protected in America for the First Amendment.
Yeah, an American court would just laugh. Yeah, an American court would laugh.
Yeah, because it doesn't match a double criminality requirement for extradition.
Guys, do you mind if I just see if our guest is able to communicate?
Sure.
Franklin, how are you going, mate? How are you going, the Franklin? Can you hear me?
I'm okay.
Yeah, good, mate. Your sound is fine. Your sound is fine. Let me just say, look, I've had people
Yeah, I'm
asking
still
me
getting this
for
lag.
weeks now to have. I'm sorry, man. I can hear you fine, and people in the chat can hear you fine. They've been saying they can hear you perfectly, man.
Yeah, it's not the sound quality,
think
it's the
anyone-
lag. There's a lag of about 2 or 3 seconds.
All right. Well, we may just have to put up with that, mate, if you don't mind. People have been asking me for weeks to have you on as a special guest. People noticed that your channel disappeared from YouTube, and they wanted to know about that, and they wanted to know how you're going. And obviously, you know, I've been asking you for a while now if you come on, and maybe you would be kind enough to tell us what happened and how things are going.
Sure. So in terms of what happened with the channel, I actually found out through Millennial Woes. He contacted me and said he was sorry that I'd got banned. And so then I just went and checked, and sure enough, I'd been banned. I appealed it, and that didn't work. So the reason they gave was, in fact, I can probably look it up. But basically, the reason that they gave was that I supposedly support terrorist organizations, and I think that was to do with my streams last year about a certain, say,
what utter nonsense.
An American of Polish extraction. Let's say it that way. When I did a series of streams about a book or manifesto written by that guy, and I think ultimately I was reported by someone. I think it was kind of an inside job, and so anyway, so it's a bit weird. I've got this echo in my ear from my own voice. So anyway, I got banned from that, and of course YouTube. I didn't expect them to sort of have any nuance in this regard, even though it's fairly critical, I think, of that author, if you like. I didn't expect them to have very much nuance on that front. So yeah, they kicked me off. I was kind of surprised that it was that, and this was probably, it was at least 6 months after the fact, I think. So I don't know why it took them that long to do it. That's why I think it was some sort of inside job. I think if there'd been any kind of algorithm or anything like that, they would have picked it up immediately, pretty much. So I don't know exactly what was going on there, and I talked about some of that stuff later in private as well.
Franklin, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that was
for them to have claimed
I'd kind of expected for a long time, actually, that I was going to get banned. So it's.
I mean, as you say, you weren't actually anything like supporting that dude. You were just
there's this
what
lag
he
thing
wrote.
is.
Hang on, let me try going out and in and see if that helps me.
Sorry, I'll let you finish talking, and then I'll start talking again.
Yeah, hang on, mate. Let
me
me try going out and in. Maybe that will help. It could be me. I don't know. Wait a minute.
That's what happened to this channel, though, too. It was It was banned for something that was like 6 months ago on a show. I don't remember what the reason was. Do you guys remember that? Adam, Mitch, are they not? They're both silenced. Anyway, that is what happened.
All right. I don't know if that's going to be better. Yeah, mate. I just can't believe that YouTube banned you for that, because that was such obvious. That was so obviously just a lie. It was an untruth, you know. Because you weren't even totally pro that person. I remember those streams.
Well, I think in my own case, because my channel is relatively small, I probably flew onto the radar for a long time, and when they were alerted to me, then they would have banned me for that, because, as I said, they weren't going to wade through however many streams. I think I did about a dozen streams and listen to whatever that was, over 20 hours of material, to sort of pick up on the nuances of what I was discussing. And I mean, even if they just listened to the last episode where I sort of did a summary and reflected upon what I'd read, they would have discovered that it was fairly critical, actually, of the person in question. But they weren't going to do that, obviously. I think it was just the sort of the friend-enemy distinction. They just smelt immediately, right, this guy's giving off right-wing vibes. Mm-hmm. Let's ban him. So I thought it was only a matter of time before I got banned, whether it was for that or anything else. And this sort of speaks to the broader problem that we have, that ultimately we're playing with their toys. We're playing on their platforms. And as long as we do so, they can and will ban us whenever they feel like it. And they only need the flimsiest of pretexts. So either we're going to have to speak in this sort of complete code in order to get any point across, but then in so doing, we'd only be speaking to other people who already speak that code, not newcomers, or at any point they could trip us up. So I think it was only a matter of time.
Are you thinking of using any other platform or something like that, mate?
Maybe eventually. For the moment, I'm doing a few other things, including offline in real life. I may eventually. I think I'd probably rather write in the future than talk, but we'll see. One of the problems with the other platforms is they're tiny. So, you'll get kind of 10% of the number of subscribers. If you go on another platform, because everyone wants to just use one platform, so they're still going to use YouTube, you'll only get a tiny number of people using those other platforms. So I don't know. I'm fairly ambivalent about that, actually. And the other thing is I'm more interested in some ways in making prepared content rather than doing streams. And again, one of the problems with that, as Dave the Distributist has discussed many times, is you put a lot of effort into making those kinds of videos and they get very few views. When I used to do those kinds of videos, they take me a few hours to prepare, from when I'd write the script to recording it and editing and all of that sort of stuff. And those would get fewer views than the streams. So I'm not really sure, actually, what I'm going to do in the future. For now, I'm not putting out any content. I still have a few ideas, but it also sort of speaks to I wasn't quite sure what to do. One of the ironies about getting shut down when I did was that it was my least productive time at the channel. In prior years, I mean, I dodged a big censorship wave a few years ago, and that's when I was putting out a lot more content. So it's kind of ironic that I got banned during a low content period. But I was sort of trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, because I wasn't really interested in doing the sort of current happenings type posting, or able to do that, actually, because I would never be able to put something out immediately after some event happened, or something in the news cycle or that kind of thing. On the other hand, I got to a point where I think a lot of the theory has already been covered. I mean, people have been writing about this or speaking about this sort of stuff for years now, over a decade, actually. So I wasn't really sure what to do, actually, in that regard. But I'll let you say something else again as well.
I was just going to say, if you want to write stuff, then Substack seems to be the way to go at the moment. That's where most of the good guys like Morgoth and Dave, the distributors who I follow, that they produce quite a lot of content on Substack, which is obviously written stuff. That might be one way for you to go, maybe.
I have a question. Can you do like a short little video on YouTube and then have a link to a different platform, or will that get?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's where I was thinking about. That seems to be the place, for sure.
Yeah.
Just trying to figure out exactly what it is that I want to say, because I'm particularly interested in the sort of long-run collapse of Western civilization and how we respond to that. And that's kind of a weird niche. A lot of people want the sort of current happenings. They're really into that kind of stuff. And a lot of the collapsitarians are not exactly dissident right. They're sort of adjacent to that, although some of them are left-wing as well. So it's kind of a weird niche. I'm not sure that I'd get a huge number of people reading that sort of stuff. And again, it's the thing of how much time and effort does one put into these things, and what's the response to that time and effort?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to reply to what Aubrey was trying to ask you, he's been banned from YouTube, Aubrey. He can't put up videos on YouTube.
Well, could somebody else?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and if he asked me to, I would, for example. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he can't make a video himself.
Or could you even just tweak your name slightly?
Well, I mean, I could start another channel. I don't know whether it would pick up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, if the Franklin asked me to put up a link video to something
my
else
voice
he was
and,
doing, I would
somehow ban me for that reason. But I mean, I could just start a new.
But yeah, I just think it was a travesty, mate. I mean, honestly, the idea that you supported a terrorist organization was just flipping insane, basically. But I've had many people, and I mean
the email that I sent
me
to
in
appealing.
Trap chats.
Maybe I didn't say.
Carry on, mate.
Sorry, I'll let you finish, and then I'll tell that story.
Well, I was just going to say, I've had dozens of people ask me in chats on streams and also in my comment section under these videos, ask me what happened to you. So, you know, a lot of people have been concerned, for sure. But yeah, that was all I was going to say.
So, in my sort of esoteric style, my kind of way of doing these things, maybe I didn't send the best email appeal to them, because in my email appeal I said, look, I couldn't have been supporting a terrorist organization because I'm too cynical to support anyone. that didn't get me my channel back somehow. So maybe I took the wrong approach there.
Yeah, I think you might have been better off just saying, no, I didn't support him, because you didn't really. So, you know.
Well, I did say that too, but there was that other bit. My justification for why I didn't support him was that I was too cynical to support anyone. And
I mean, you weren't making a call to action in support of any terrorist group, so I don't understand how they can make that claim.
well, that's why I think he's a very interesting character, and he obviously still spooks the system, even though that happened, what is it, 30 years ago now. And they're very worried, obviously, that at some point people are going to really latch onto his ideas. And there are actually groups that claim to be inspired by him, although they're doing that sort of primitivism type thing. But if any group were seriously to be inspired by him and act upon it, there are all sorts of things that they could do. I won't go into them, but there are all sorts of things that they could do that could be very, very problematic for the system. So obviously the system is still very concerned about him, and he has this sort of meme quality, and he's still studied by a lot of academics as well. So he's obviously of concern.
Sorry, who is this? Or can we not name them on stream?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to get Eindhoek.
Yeah, fair enough.
But let's say he's a famous American of Polish extraction. He's got a Polish family name, and he was a child prodigy mathematician, and he's alleged to have gone through the MK Ultra program. So I don't know if that's, and he's sort of he's often nicknamed as a family member. I don't know how much you can say without getting.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
The list as well.
I see what you're saying. I think most people can work out who you're talking about.
Yeah. Interesting guy.
He was an interesting guy, but I mean, the thing is, the Franklin was reading some of his writings and critiquing it. He wasn't saying, "Oh no, this is right, this is right, this is right." Not at all, you know.
Or calling for people to follow in footsteps.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, he was not.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, well, YouTube is not.
So that's why I think the system is concerned about him, because he's kind of the black sheep of the family when it comes to environmentalism.
True.
Yeah, I remember seeing someone reminded me of that book.
So-called right-wing terrorists.
Yeah, someone reminded me of that book of his the other day, and I kind of sat there and thought, you look at something like the Green Party here, and I thought, I wonder how many people in that party have actually read like that book, which is more sort of a seminal text on environmentalism than most of the stuff that they've probably read, which is probably considerably more modern and more whitewashed.
And a lot of what he said was very critical of modern people and the modern way of life. And bear in mind, he wrote that in the 90s, possibly even earlier, because it was sort of on the loose, so to speak, from it was the late 60s or early 70s until he was finally caught in the mid 90s. So he had incredible predictive power, and he's very critical and dismissive of sort of the modern way of thinking, the leftist way of thinking. So that too, he's not their guy. He wasn't their guy. He wasn't someone they could easily just say, "Oh, look, this guy cares about these causes, and that's all going to advance our agenda towards some carbon neutral future or what have you." He was considerably more nuanced and considerably messier than that and harder to pin down for them. So I think that's a large part of why they're very concerned about anyone espousing his ideas also.
I think it's interesting, Franklin, that I had people trying to tell me that you lost your channel because you misgendered a troon, for example.
That's actually what I heard as well.
Yeah, people have thought that. Which, I mean, maybe it's a good thing you didn't lose your channel for that, because otherwise we're all in big trouble. But
Well, I can only speculate based upon what they told me. I mean, maybe it wasn't for this guy, for this Polish American guy, but I can't think of any other thing that it would be based upon their description of it. But who knows? I mean, I might have made some sort of jokey reference to something in passing. Who knows?
So they don't note it specifically, like in what episode and what was said. They're that vague. Because how do you defend against that if they don't tell you specifically?
No, they don't.
Oh, that's lovely.
No, they never give it. I mean, like I've had
What's the point?
I've had
you don't defend against it.
2 strikes on this channel, and they will just tell you the channel. They will tell you the episode, but they won't tell you why. And when I've appealed both of mine, and one they did accept my appeal, and on the other one, whilst they didn't accept my appeal, they got rid of the strike, which kind of meant they did accept my appeal. So there you go. But they don't tell you exactly what it is they're complaining about.
I don't think they even told me which episode it was. And they send you these very bureaucratic...
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%, mate. They don't want to tell you because they want to make it as hard. They want to make it as hard as possible for you to rectify this, you see.
Right, and give themselves as much legal leeway as they can.
Did you get warnings before that, the Franklin? Or
the email looks like it's just a kind of form type thing. I'm not even sure if... No, nothing.
Wow.
That's interesting because it's supposed to be that you require 3 strikes to lose your channel.
They
That's
just sent you this
supposedly
very
YouTube.
bureaucratic form type letter. I'm not.
So they just
That's
deleted all your content?
Everything.
Wow.
But it's interesting because according to YouTube's own rules, you're supposed to get.
I'm not even sure whether
You're supposed to get strikes before they delete your channel. That's what's supposed to happen, so according to YouTube.
Somebody needs to sue.
So they don't even obey their own rules.
Well, it might have been that
You need a lot of money to do that.
I know they've got big pockets. I know.
It might have been that they just banned 3 things at the same time, effectively. Like I got 3 strikes at the same time.
Sounds like a con job to me, mate, to be honest. But, you know, that's YouTube.
Well, like I said, this is the deeper problem that ultimately we're playing with their toys. And so they can decide how they enforce the rules. They can decide what constitutes a strike, all of that sort of stuff. And we can say that's not fair or what have you, or oh, it's not as bad as you say, or we can say, well, you didn't look at the nuance of this or that, because it did seem like it was all just, I may never have actually dealt with a human being in this entire process. But ultimately, they can do whatever they want, including that. And because we're playing on their platforms.
But are they doing this to people that are making the same types of for the left? I mean, because I've seen some pretty hateful stuff coming out from the left. Are they doing that? Because, I mean, that's something that a good attorney can take forward. So, right. So there you go. I mean, you can't. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the little guys win in lawsuits against the big guys, you know?
Sometimes.
That's what has to start.
Oh, but you've seen that more.
Start standing up, though. That's the thing.
You've seen that more
the
broadly
right
in terms of political activism and.
Okay, carry on, Franklin. Carry on, please.
So you've seen that more broadly in terms of political activism, as in real life political activism and the political process and all of these sorts of things. The system is not even-handed. It's very much tilted towards the left. All of the institutions are controlled by the left. So the idea that we would receive equal treatment, the idea that, well, they would ban people from the left on YouTube, that's just not going to play out that way. I imagine there'd be all sorts of people saying all sorts of stuff on the left, and YouTube wouldn't ban them. I think we can't operate under this assumption that, oh well, there are a set of rules and they're equally enforced. No one is above the law. All of this sort of stuff. I don't think that's a good basis from which we can begin.
Maybe you don't do it to win. Maybe you do it to just bring attention to the matter. You know, I'm not saying you, but somebody. To the larger populations, because a lot of people probably aren't aware. I mean, look at how many people were asking where you went. I don't know. Anyway.
I just, you know, like all of
there's something to be said for that sort of approach of pointing out their hypocrisy. I think would have limited effect, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, mate. But all of these streams go to our Odyssey channel automatically. So were YouTube to delete this channel, like all those streams would still be available on Odyssey. I also stream at the same time on where you can send us super chats. I also stream at the same time on that channel. I know I have friends who stream on Rumble, for example, but Rumble's a pretty rough platform most of the time. But it is much more free speech than YouTube is. I've also been looking recently at what's it called? X, Twitter, also does streaming now, and I'm considering that maybe we ought to stream on there at the same time. Because although I don't think Elon Musk is our guy, he's much more in favor of free speech than YouTube is, for example.
And that's why people really hate him.
Yeah, there is some sort of a lag
in the center, because he doesn't even have to be our guy.
Yeah,
just the fact that he's not going to ban people on the right, that's cause for everyone to clutch their pearls. Oh my God, how can you let those people even speak?
Yeah, which is what, I mean, basically that's what they want. They want to close down everyone on the right. Because, you know, if you can close down everyone on the right, as far as they're concerned, on the left, you know, that's a good thing. Just as they're quite happy to put everyone on the right in jail, and ultimately they'd be quite happy shooting you, your wife, your children. They wouldn't care. Wouldn't care at all.
Bleak when you put it like that.
But yeah, I think Mitch is right. There is a long lag. There is a long lag here. I suspect that the Franklin hasn't used his. He hasn't.
Yeah, I'm trying not
while,
to respond immediately to you so that we don't talk over each other.
There's some sort of. Yeah, no, it's fine, man. Don't worry. It's fine. But yeah, you know, we're not playing on a level playing field at all. Like I say, I do have friends who stream on Rumble. Rumble is much more free speech than YouTube is. I don't yet, but we do stream to other places apart from YouTube. Just because I know YouTube could cut us off at any time because they don't believe in free speech at all. So, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of crappy that this is the platform we're kind of stuck with for the time.
Yeah, like I said, there was a kind of irony in getting banned at that point in time because
Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Sorry, Asaman.
No, please carry on.
Okay, thanks. So there was a kind of irony in getting banned at the time because I'd been putting out very little normal videos. I'd only been doing streams, and I was sort of getting to a point where I was wondering what direction I should take in the future with the channel, because as I said, I felt like all of the theory had been covered, but I wasn't so interested in and couldn't really keep up with the news cycle anyway. So I was sort of caught between no man's land. So it was kind of ironic that I got banned then. But as I also said, the thing that really interests me, which is the long-term effects of all of this, the long-run collapse of Western civilization, that seems pretty niche, actually, for most people. So I'm, in a way, it might have been a mercy killing, banning me at that time, because I felt like I was running out of things to say anyway.
I don't think many of us who followed you thought that, to be honest, Franklin. You know, you're a fairly original voice and a fairly independent voice on the right. Yeah, you've certainly been missed, mate, for sure. You have.
It may be my own worst critique, or my own harshest critique in this regard, I suppose. You're probably right.
I think, well, look, if you do decide to start something like a Substack or whatever it might be, please do let me know, and I will make sure I publicize it, because I can do that at least.
Yeah. Okay, will do. Just to respond very quickly to one of the comments that's come up in the chat by Sonny Jim. He says, but the removal of the Franklin's content for future reference for others is galling. I believe he's there's an interesting use of the spelling for galling. But my content, I have all of the original videos. What I don't have on my channel is on my computer is the streams. I think I downloaded a few of the streams, and so I actually lost all of that content. I believe the questionable content, shall we say, that got me banned. But I have all of the original videos that I made going back to the start of the channel, and I believe other people have downloaded them as well. But I have them, so I could always do something with them in the future, re-upload them or something like that.
Put them on Rumble or something like that.
They delete your content and then they send you this letter saying, so you can't even, unless you saved it, you can't even go to see what they are actually, well, I guess they don't specifically say it anyway. But.
Yeah, no, you have to save it beforehand, babe. So that's, like I said, all of the content that I put out goes to other places like Odyssey and what have you. So if you don't do that, yeah, YouTube can just remove everything you have.
I mean, they do that though before you have the chance to appeal. That's the thing that I never mind. I keep going at this trying to make it fair, and obviously they're not. So that's the problem.
No, they're not even slightly fair.
No,
not even slightly fair. But you can go on YouTube and say, we want to kill all right-wing white Nazis, and YouTube won't do anything about that. Never.
Yeah.
Will never do anything about that. Even if the people they're referring to are neither right-wing nor Nazis. But there we go. We do not live in a fair world. As my dad used to say, you're born, you get fucked up, and then you die.
Jeez. Oh,
right, I am coming up on my hard stop, so I am going to get off here. I actually need to try and get an early night tonight.
All right, mate. Thank you very much for coming on, Alan, as always. So you're always most welcome. Co-founder of the channel. So there you go.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a plethora of quite depressing topics, but yeah, I'll talk to you all later.
Bye.
Night.
Go on, mate. Mitch, did you have anything to add to this stuff? Because you haven't said anything for a while. Mitch, did you have anything you wanted to add to this stuff? Because you haven't said anything for a while.
No, I haven't got much to say.
I see John Cavaliers in the chat. And we were talking about him earlier, weren't we? In a favourable light, by the way, John Cavalier. we were saying good things about him. No, we were saying good things about you, mate. Don't worry. We were talking about you moving on towards reform rather than the Conservatives, which is always a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Reform are not perfect, but they're the best bastards we have at the moment. So there you go. Anything else you wanted to add to the Franklin? I'm sorry we've had this awful lag going on. It's made it quite difficult, but maybe I'd really like to have you on again, actually, and maybe we won't have such bad lag next time. But was there anything else you wanted to say, mate?
Not really. I think I've said everything there that I could. I'm sorry about the lag. The reason I asked you to send me a link to my email before was because I didn't want to do it on a phone. It was trying to connect. It wouldn't let me in without connecting the camera, so I didn't want to do that.
Okay.
Just in case even if I sort of put it away from myself, I might
understandable. Understandable.
Moved within view or something like that. So I didn't want to do it through a phone. And I don't know why it's doing it like this. So sorry about the connection.
It's not your fault. It happens. And I've got a potato over computer, which probably doesn't help. But thank you very much for coming on the Franklin. As I said, I've had loads of people asking me what happened to you. And now at least people can have some idea of what did happen to you. As I said, if you decide you do want to do stuff on Substack and what have you, writing stuff, please let me know and I will absolutely publicize it on my channel. More than happy to do that.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for having me on.
Always, mate. You're always welcome to come on this channel anytime you feel like it. Anytime.
Just after you close it, I just want to speak in private to you for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, no, I'll do that, mate.
I'll give you a bit more the backstory on why I got banned.
Yeah, no problem, mate. I'd love to do that. Thank you very much. Anything else to say, Mitch or Aubrey? Because I think we're coming up on 2 hours, and I was going to go a bit longer, but because the Franklin joined us a bit earlier than he thought he would be able to, we'll probably close it at 2 hours. So anything else you want to say, Mitch or Aubrey?
I just think that we on the right have to start taking action in some ways. I feel like we're always trying to kind of at least in the political system over here, you see the riots, you see the cities that are being burned down in the US, and it's always the left, right? And I'm not saying burn down cities. That is not what I'm advocating whatsoever. But something's got to happen. And, we've dealt with situations before. I think of the mafia, right? During Prohibition and after, up until the 80s that we still had them as a pretty, at least late 70s. And it didn't look like there was anything that could be done, right? But we did. I think there are ways that things can be handled. I don't think it's as bleak, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I've not given up yet, but I think we need to start playing hardball a bit on the right and not playing by the rules all the time.
That last bit, I totally agree with. The last bit about playing hardball, yeah, I agree. We need to use some of the less things against them where we
Right.
can. In some cases we can't, because you're not as the Franklin was pointing out earlier, we are not treated the same as the left, not at all.
No.
And that applies in real life too. I mean, the 12-year-old British schoolboys and the little old lady grannies who are being given months and years in prison because of tweets and Facebook posts, that will not ever happen to the left.
That's why we've got to get some attorneys on the right that will stand up for the civil liberties of the right, of the other people, because the left is suing left and right. If somebody's feelings are hurt, that if this or that, if a different pronoun is used. So, we've got to get some attorneys on the right that are going to step up and sue for the white kids that don't get into, medical school, because it's all going to other
no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
The only way it's going to happen.
No, you're not wrong. But you also got to bear in mind that a load of Black Lives Matter protesters burning down a central business district are not going to be treated the same as, say, the January 6th protesters who were invited into the building by cops. One of the cops who then shot an unarmed woman. I mean, it hasn't stopped them spending. Some of them are still in jail. 4 years later, they're still in jail.
And
it's not a level playing field. Sorry.
It goes. It goes a little bit beyond that too, because one of the things that the left also do is they target professionals on the right. So they started doing this to Trump and the people who were in his inner circle. And the message they're trying to give out to anyone is, if you're someone who's ambitious, you want a career, all of these kinds of things, you want to earn lots of money, you want to be in the right social circles and so on. If you support the right, we will ruin that for you. And so people get the message. And there are all these filters. Increasingly now there are filters at universities, so that probably right-wing people are going to find it harder and harder even to get into university and then get the qualifications, because we live in this state that's really big on credentials. You need to get the credentials in order to practice that profession. So they're cutting them off even at that stage. But if somehow they manage to get through that, then they will give them a very clear message that if you want to support these guys, if you are a lawyer who's going to try to support these guys, make life very difficult for you as well professionally. So they have all of these kind of checkpoints, if you like. It's very sinister and it's very complicated, and we need to figure out a way to get through all of those. We would need to have a lot of community support such that one of those lawyers would still be able to earn a living. I mean that wouldn't include getting disbarred or anything like that, but just be able to get enough people paying him to earn a living. And so on and so forth with all of these other professionals also.
Yeah, look at what they did to Brett Kavanaugh when he was up for the Supreme Court. I mean, they tried to ruin his career, a man that had a stellar career. And then they get somebody, that Biden elects, and they go through right away with no problems on the right, nothing. So, but again, the mafia, they did that. They threatened prosecutors and their families, and I mean, it was pretty. We have to get some heroes, right? They're going to stand up there. Yes.
Aubrey, to be fair, the mafia had nowhere near the power of
True.
the left and the globalists and the neocons.
Yeah.
Nowhere near their power.
You've got to
bear that in mind. But,
Yeah.
Mitch,
I don't know
did
how
you
we
have
get
any
back into
final
our
thoughts before
educational system.
we bugger off? Very difficult because it's been just taken over totally by the left. Mitch, did you have any final thoughts, mate?
Can't really mention much. I mean, I suppose after this, I'll watch Charlemagne's stream of the Ukrainian war that is just completed. Apparently, that I didn't know anything about. As for Trump, I mean, as I said, as I said earlier, I would just abstain regarding someone like him. Farage, I wouldn't abstain regarding him because he's remained consistent on mass immigration, whereas Trump hasn't. So I'm going to support Farage for the time being, even if I don't like his Muslim chairman. So for the time being, unless he does something massive.
That's why.
I'm not convinced by this one comment, though, that Trump has actually really changed his stance on his immigration stance here.
Well, I don't understand how he reasons that America still needs more people because of AI, even though with something like it's like saying because it's like the problem with America is your empire largely runs off sort of it doesn't run off the same way that British Empire did, where you're able to send people to different places like Australia or Canada. So you can't really just offset a surplus population through sending them to different places of the world like we did. So mass immigration, as Trump voiced, is just stupid. He just wants to open up. He's just wanting it all to be legal. That's the only difference really between him and Biden is Biden doesn't even give a damn what immigration happens, so long as it just happens. Whereas Trump's more like, just have it legal. That's a conservative solution to it. Just make it all legal. It's the same with law and justice in Poland. They did the same where they all fearmonger about Muslims.
I'm not totally convinced that is Trump's view, even though he did make that speech. I'm not totally convinced that was his view.
I don't know how many more videos of this speech you have.
People make speeches, mate. They do. And look, listen, I'm never been a total Trump fan in terms of his speeches. But on the other hand, I think his heart's probably vaguely in the right place.
He's pretty damn
also,
good.
as I've always said, Trump is really a 90s Democrat. You've got to look at it that way. He's not a Republican. He's a 90s Democrat. And it's only because the US has fallen so far that people can claim he's nearly Hitler, which he most certainly isn't. But that's what they claim.
Because, with his last
America
term,
has fallen so far.
With his last term, we ended up so poorly over here. He killed so many of us as Hitler, right?
Yeah. You're being facetious, of course. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand this argument. We have people have to vote Trump because he's a lesser. And I go, don't call yourself dissident if you're just going to go for the whole lesser of two evils manner of thinking in regards to elections. Because
sorry.
Yeah, no. Look, fair enough. I reckon you guys are going to have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I'm also agree to disagree. I know that Franklin wants a bit of a chat in private. So thank you very much to my guests this week, Mitch, Adam, Aubrey, and also obviously our special guest, the Franklin. Go well, people in the chat, and never let the bastards grind you down. And we'll see you next week. Go well, people.